Are you going to give me a kiss?
No.
No!
Pack 53 in Glenwood, California.
Welcome to Real People!
Battle of the Network shows. Join Rick Brooks and Mike Kogel as they explore the TV of the 70s and 80s through hand-picked episodes of their favorite and not-so-favorite series.
Welcome to Battle of the Network shows. Today, we're going to discuss real people.
Real people.
No more of these fake people.
Yeah, we're keeping it real this time, folks.
That's right. So, do you have any background on real people?
Well, I think a lot of people might not remember this quite as much. It was a hit for NBC back in the day, but it hasn't been seen since then. But at the time, it was, I guess, rather innovative as I guess you could call it a reality show.
Yeah.
It had sort of a news magazine format without the news, more like segments based on, just real people doing real things with
human
kind of
interest.
a lighthearted. Yes, human interest is perfect with a lighthearted tone. And one of the producers of the mastermind of Laugh-In, George Schlatter, was the executive producer in this, and also, I guess it's one of the co-producers is John Barber, who was one of the hosts in the first season.
Yeah.
Who, I didn't know this until I was looking this show up, that he's considered the godfather of reality television.
Right.
I imagine that John Barber had something to do with that designation, calling himself that. I've never heard him called the godfather of reality television.
I wouldn't want to call myself the godfather of reality television.
Yeah, or if I did, I would have given that up about 20 years ago. I would have sacrificed that title and gladly given it to somebody else. It was very big. It was on NBC, I think 5 or 6 years, right? And it spawned imitators like That's Incredible was probably the most famous one on ABC. Yeah. And I would imagine like a lot of people might mix the two shows up, but there are multiple hosts on each of these shows, and Real People had different hosts. Usually they would introduce their own segments, but they would also appear on stage kind of before a crowd, an audience, and they'd introduce these segments and have a little bit of interplay between the two of you.
Yeah. This is definitely something I want to get into, is trying to define this format.
Okay.
Because it has elements of variety show, it has elements of news magazine, and it has reality elements.
Yeah, and
it's kind of a weird thing.
It is. I think you would agree though that overall it's definitely a lighthearted tone.
Definitely.
It doesn't really cross into exploitation so much. There's some. It looks like some of the topics they get into sometimes are mildly risque or something, but it's definitely family entertainment. Right. As we'll talk about, like what are the cast members, but it had a spinoff specifically geared towards kids. That's Incredible was the one with John Davidson, Fran Tarkenton, and Kathy Lee Crosby.
And they got into like weirder stuff.
Yeah, I think that was more like Guinness Book of World Records or Ripley's Believe It or Not kind of stuff.
Right,
probably.
Animals and people drowning and coming back to life, things like that. Yeah, like that I watched that some, and I remember sometimes it made it hard to go to sleep at night. It was just a little bit more intense.
Yeah, definitely.
They have tarantulas and things like that.
Right, it was more sensationalistic too, and the way now that you mention it, the way they'd advertise it, they would promote that kind of stuff.
Right,
like a guy with the bees on his head or something like that. Yeah, so Real People did pretty well in its day, but it's despite being one of these innovative shows. And actually, I'm not so sure how innovative it was, but it kind of reminds me like a lot of you'd have back in the day. PM magazine or like local markets would have like a syndicated show, or not a syndicate, but like a local show with like two good-looking hosts that would introduce like human interest stories, and maybe every now and then have a celebrity on, and kind of have a mixture of things like pre-tape pieces and studio pieces. And that's actually what this really reminds me of. I'm not sure if this influenced that or vice versa or what.
Like PM magazine, they would have the local host, but then the rest of it was just
they
like would produced
by like the station chain or whatever that produced it. Yeah, would like syndicate the content among the PM magazine franchise.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the same kinds of stories. So water skiing squirrels and
yeah,
whatever.
And maybe so, but a lot of this is it's not as sensationalistic. A lot of it's kind of mundane stuff. It might be like an event that's interesting, and sometimes the hosts do more interaction than others. Sometimes they're just doing voiceovers.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're actually going out in the field and like talking to people and putting some kind of spin on the story. But
right.
So each episode is kind of a mixed bag, and throughout there was a basic cast of performers, but there was some turnover throughout the years, and the format itself basically changed. And we talked about one from season 6, October 12th, 1983. This is actually the first episode in season 6.
Yeah.
But as you go back and look at the episodes, you could pick like any one, and it's kind of random. I mean, I don't see a lot of like themes or anything. It's just they'd have like a grab bag of features in each episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looked like they were occasionally like there's one where they go to New York, and there's one that's clearly like a Halloween themed, and some holiday themed ones. But I think in general,
yeah,
it's just here's a bunch of stuff.
Right, and and each segment is what, like 5 to 7 minutes tops.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's the story with real people, and yes, it did. This actually did pretty well for NBC, and right. I think at least 1 or 2 years it was their highest rated show.
And again, this is in that era where they were kind of in the basement. But,
yeah, this is now the one we watched was kind of like the tail end where they're kind of getting it going with the entertainment side of it.
Yeah.
And this was the last season really, so it was kind of on the way out at this point. But when it first came on, pretty quickly was a very popular hit. Right. And at the time, some of it seems a little quaint to us now, but at the time, a lot of this stuff, it wasn't commonplace to see all this stuff together.
And it also had a couple brief spin-offs or spins off. The kid version that we'll address, and then the other one took elements from the show and just expanded it. But most importantly, that one was hosted by Marjo.
Yes, the Speak Up America.
Yeah. So that would basically the entire time the audience would be offering opinions. I don't think the episode we had really had any of that.
No, I've seen a little bit of another one where they actually went out and interacted more with the people in the crowd, or maybe they have a whole segment where they're doing Q&As. But yeah, the Speak Up America, whatever. I think they thought that would be a big hit at the time. I seem to recall reading something about that in the Fred Silverman book.
Right.
But it didn't last very long. Yeah. Despite our friend Marjo Gordner.
Right. If you don't know who Marjo is, well, that's your problem. No. He was a guy who he grew up in a family of evangelists, and then eventually sort of had a change of heart and made a documentary that exposed at least some of the less appealing elements of sort of that kind of televangelist, or I don't know if his family were televangelists, but
yeah, I think they were like Pentecostal.
Yeah, and had a brief like acting career.
Yeah, he kind of moved into like schlock movies, like Food of the Gods, or schlock and cult movies in the 70s and 80s, I guess. And so Marjo, unfortunately, is not a member of the cast of Real People, but
other cast members who are missing from this one, Fred Willard, everyone knows from Christopher Guest movies and all sorts of other things. Fernwood Tonight.
Currently on Modern Family in a recurring role, I believe.
Okay. Roseanne, he was on there.
Yeah.
In later years.
He came and went, it seems like, throughout the course of the show.
Yeah. And Washington reporter Mark Russell.
Yes. Now, I believe we would describe Mark Russell as a humorist.
Yes, humorist. Boy, I wonder what he would be doing. Well, we won't get political here.
Yes, he was a staple of PBS for many years.
Playing his piano and...
Yes, making wry witticisms about the political scene.
That's right.
Yeah, he was a fixture on the show, I think, throughout its... He doesn't happen to be in this episode,
right.
But
he's in a lot.
Would recur and do like his own pieces. So.
Yeah.
I like to think that Mark Russell had complete creative control over his own segments. Like you couldn't convince him to do anything else. So the only way he'd do it is kind of like Albert Brooks on Saturday Night Live. He's too much of a genius. You had to let Mark Russell do his own thing. Not sure if that's true, but I'd like to think that it is.
So do we want to start with who is in this episode?
Yeah. Maybe we should introduce the cast. Like they're introduced to us at the beginning of the episode. They come out through the crowd, right?
Yeah, they do. Each one.
Slap some hands and wave high.
So clearly the lead is Sarah Purcell.
Yeah.
She seems to be the main host, and she's well known for hosting other things and doing some acting. Mm-hmm. And I think appearing on things like Match Game.
Yeah. And To Tell the Truth, game shows like that, and like revival of that, and she was kind of a personality for a while.
Yeah. infomercials.
Went on to host, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did any more research on Sarah Purcell, but I read an interesting story about her.
The Gary Collins
yes.
story?
Did you see that?
I'll let you tell.
Is there footage of this anywhere? Because, there was a show on ABC called The Home Show. Now, I was surprised that it lasted as long as it did. Like, well into the mid-'90s, this show is still on ABC. I mean, now it seems like this has, like, middle-aged people talking about stuff. Like, why would ABC put this on the air?
Yeah.
You know? But they were still doing this. So they would have, like, segments designed, obviously, to, like, older female skewing audience, but, like, called The Home Show. But they'd have celebrities on, all this kind of infotainment, typical morning magazine type interview chat show. And I guess there was a segment where someone they had some segment where they had to get injections.
I think they were getting flu shots.
Okay, they were showing a demonstration about how easy it is to get like a shot or something. So whoever was administering the shot gave Gary Collins a flu shot and then used the same needle to give Sarah Purcell her shot.
Yeah, I actually went and read the LA Times article from the time.
Oh, interesting. Okay, tell us about that.
And it was a flu shot, so he gave it to Gary Collins, and then he gave it to her, and then they went to commercial, and he realized on air, and he's a doctor. He's like, oh, and he got freaked out about it because he felt like
he should.
Yeah, Sarah Purcell apparently wasn't bothered by it and just did the rest of the show, and it's fine, But then Gary Collins got his blood tested for HIV and hepatitis B.
What a sport!
The kind of diseases that could be transferred through a used needle.
Yeah.
And of course, everything was fine. But
good. You would have gotten in serious trouble with Marianne Mobley if.
So the article was interesting. It almost just talking about it as here's one of those things that happened on live TV.
Yeah.
And because the doctor is like, oh, please don't show that. And Sarah Purcell's like, well, it's too late.
We're live, pal.
Yeah.
Could we redo that?
So there was someone else who was with him. I think maybe the person actually doing the talking or something, and he's quoted in the article as saying something along the line, well, he's just a doctor and everything, and between the lights and everything, he got nervous and because the two needles were sitting next to each other on a tray or whatever.
Yeah, well,
he just got flustered.
Could happen to anyone. At least he didn't jab it into their eye or something like that.
Right? Yeah.
Man, that's really one of the worst mistakes you can make.
It is.
In that kind of thing. But yeah, so to me that's fascinating. I want to see that.
Yeah.
And nothing against Sarah Purcell. She's a pro. She's amiable and a very pleasant, charming. But to me, that's probably the most interesting thing that I'll ever know about Sarah Purcell.
Aside, what was that talk show that Gary Collins had?
Our Magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gary Collins was a seasoned pro, even in
also kind of a personality.
Yeah, you're right. He was an actor.
A little acting.
Yep. Pageant host, that kind of thing. Yep.
Right. These might not come out in the order that they appeared, but I'm going to try. Skip Stephenson with Hobo the Wonder Dog.
Yeah.
Can't forget Hobo the Wonder Dog.
I would have forgotten him if he hadn't come out with Skip. I forgot that he was on this.
And Skip Stephenson was mostly a stand-up, right?
Yeah.
But he did a little acting and a little, again, the game shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was definitely I'm guessing he was on every episode.
I think so. Yeah, I think he was a fixture. He and Sarah Purcell.
Yeah, and they definitely have I don't know what you call it, a little bit of a flirty thing, but also the idea that he's kind of a bad boy or something. I don't know.
Bad boy?
I don't know. Well, he did that. He's talking about showgirls.
True. I guess, yeah.
Or something. I don't know. Or
I see more of like a scamp.
A scamp, yeah.
Not necessarily a bad, yeah. More of like, Skip.
Right. Yeah.
Like my reaction to him joking about seeing showgirls in Vegas,
right?
What you're talking about is Sarah Purcell doesn't actually think that he wants to go see the showgirls in Vegas. She's reacting because she knows that he's just trying to be funny and wind them up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I hear you though.
Yeah. No, that makes more sense. I think.
But he's kind of just blonde and kind of just wears sweaters and kind of I guess he's supposed to be like the Midwestern kind of. Or.
I think he is
everyman kind of presence,
Right.
I mean, his name's Skip for crying out loud. How exotic can he be?
Yeah, and I think next in this episode, Byron Allen, also a stand-up, young stand-up. He started early.
Man, yeah, he must have been really. I don't know how he was at the time of this. He must have been in his early 20s.
Yeah.
And he seems young. I mean, he's definitely a little green, but
right. And of course, he went on to have the Byron Allen show.
Yeah.
Talk show.
Right.
That was on for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Syndicated talk show.
Yeah.
Now he runs Entertainment Studios.
Yeah, he's a mogul.
Apparently, the largest. What do they say? Like the largest, or they have more programming than any other.
Yeah, the largest content provider. Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got like 50 sub channels that all have this like cheap programming.
Right.
Like pets.tv. That some cable station or cable companies and systems carry, but
yeah.
And he's got like a talk show where that Comics Unleashed.
Right. Where he talks to his old stand-up buddies.
Right. He comes on and it's even more like contrived than the Tonight Show. They'll just be sitting around. So I heard you had an interesting incident happen involving
socks.
Yeah. Just out of nowhere.
Right. Then they'll do their thing on socks.
Well, the thing about socks is.
Yeah, where does the one sock go?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's that kind of. But they're all sitting they're just sitting there chatting.
Right.
Like at a table. Like then there's 4 or 5 of them all doing that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Hey, it works for Byron Allen.
Right, and he used to have the entertainers, where he would
that's right.
interview entertainers in it would be either press junket stuff or like hallways.
Right.
Yeah.
Press junkets are hallways.
I definitely saw him interview like
others.
Shaq or something in a hallway.
Yeah. Well,
and it had like they were using like every tool in the video editing suite. Suddenly there'd be like 8 Byrons and Shaqs on screen or something.
Yeah. Well, he's unparalleled as a celebrity interviewer.
Yeah.
He has a way of making his guests feel comfortable, I'd say. Would you agree?
I would agree, yeah. And an Ahmad Rashad-esque.
Yeah.
And forget it when he's interviewing Ahmad Rashad.
Oh, man, it's... Yes.
The love fest.
Yeah, Byron, he's not the hardest-hitting journalist out there, but...
Yeah.
Which probably makes him a perfect fit for this show.
Right. And then the next guy... I'll let you say the name.
Bill Rafferty.
Bill Rafferty. I was blanking on whether it was Bill or Jim.
Not the longtime basketball commentator, but another Bill Rafferty.
Yeah. Who did some game show hosting after.
Actually, it was Bill Rafferty, sorry. But anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, so this one was the host of like Card Sharks.
Yeah.
Like, not the Bob Eubanks or Jim Perry versions. he's kind of like
Rafferty
not that
version.
guy.
Right.
And he hosted Blockbusters, I think, for a while, but not the Bill Cullen version of Blockbusters. But, he had a very distinguished career, nevertheless.
Yeah.
He was another, solid MC kind of guy.
Yeah.
Pretty quick-witted and...
They billed him as on Real People as their roving reporter, which, since they all roved, I don't know.
Yeah, what's so special about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy will go anywhere.
Yeah. But, yeah, I like it. He's got a nice, like, New York kind of thing going on.
Yeah. Rafferty's not chained to the studio.
Yeah.
He's not going to sit there in the studio all day. He's got to be out in the field doing stories, reporting on things.
That's right. And finally, possibly the most interesting in a way, the kid host, Peter Billingsley, who you probably know from A Christmas Story.
Yes. Or
the messy Marvin Hershey syrups commercials.
Iconic child actor.
Yeah, and of course he's still like big in behind the scenes and involved in the whole Jon Favreau, Vince Vaughn world of things.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And from a family of child actors. All his siblings did some acting too, and kind of related to Barbara Billingsley.
That I don't know. Really?
I think Barbara Billingsley was married to his mom's cousin.
Well, that's good enough for me.
For a while.
Okay.
So not really at all, but
we need Leonard Nimoy to investigate.
Yeah.
This rock solid connection you've established sounds like something that might be announced by Leonard Nimoy.
But yeah, and he was a big kid actor, and like I remember when A Christmas Story came out, going, hey, it's the kid from Real People.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
And Christmas Story that's very close to around this time, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So we're kind of right in that era there. So
he comes out in a wonderfully awkward way.
He does, yeah.
It's kind of hard to describe, I guess, but he just does a little move.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about Billingsley's role. He's the most fascinating part of this show. I don't quite understand some of what's going on, but
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they all come out on this beautiful orange set.
Yeah.
Nothing says late 70s, early 80s like orange.
Right.
And a little brown.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe a little brown, but they got that.
It's even carpeted. Seems like a fairly decent sized studio for that kind of show.
Yeah, it's surprisingly spacious, I think. I would agree.
And it has different little like stations.
Yeah.
There's a center stage and like a right and left. And then they have a bunch of segments. They also did something that I guess they did in most episodes, but the awkward thing where they're all taking part in reading something.
Yeah.
This time it's a letter.
Yeah. Now, I'll say like when I first started watching this show again, they seemed to do that a lot more. Like as far as like reading things, I was like, "Why? This is terrible television." And by now, 6 seasons, it seems like it's much more video oriented, and they de-emphasize that. But yeah, they still have something where somebody read a letter in, and I guess they're trying to get the interactive element of it.
Yeah.
But they all take turns reading it, and
it's cutting back and forth, and God bless them, but they gave Peter Billingsley like the punchline of the letter.
Yeah.
And he kind of whiffs on it.
Yeah, it's weird. And
like I had to rewind. I thought the letter was from a kid, and then I got to the end. I'm like, wait, no, it's from a mom.
Yeah. Because he says something like, "It's nice to have one of us represented," or something like that.
Yeah.
Clearly, like a scripted line, and he's representing the kids, but and then he sort of looks aside, and like the editing is weird. Like they kind of hang him out to dry a couple of times in this show. Like he'll say something, and then he kind of looks awkwardly instead of like holding a shot. And like, what is somebody trying to expose Peter Billingsley in post production? This Billingsley kid, he's too big for his britches.
Yeah. John Barber's.
Yeah, John Barber's seething. Who, John Barber, like I think he was in the earlier seasons. He was actually like an on-air presence, and maybe he was not on this either.
No.
But he was actually on a couple of like sitcoms, playing like game shows, and he was on a Odd Couple episode.
Okay.
He was on an Odd Couple episode, and he was on a Sanford and Son episode. He was doing like a Let's Make a Deal kind of thing, I think, with the Sanford and Son. And on the Odd Couple, it was an episode where he was like a talk show or moderator of a panel where Felix and Oscar. There's a whole theater critic episode. Odd Couple fans will remember it, but it's worth checking out. But so he's had a couple of other acting episodes. I didn't remember when I first saw him what I recognized him from. When I first saw him in one of the season 1 Real Peoples, but that's John Barber, the godfather of reality television. More of a behind-the-scenes presence at this point.
Right. And then they get into their various segments. I'm just going to read through the segments right now, and then maybe we'll talk about the ones that are interesting.
It's a good idea.
I believe these are in the correct order. This is basically how Amazon, this is where we watch Real People, and I got to say, when you found out that Real People was on Amazon, we were both way more excited than anyone should have been.
Yeah. This is like the most random acquisition of any show ever on any streaming thing. I think people still don't really know about this, and maybe people wouldn't be that excited, but I was fascinated that Amazon had added this.
So, we got arm wrestling, something called Not Safe, Federal Express, Guppies, Mozart in New Guinea, Texas Ranch, ice car riding, and pet visitation.
Yes. Now, let's take a second to let those topics breathe. Okay, I think that's enough. Yeah. But, I mean, looking at the description, I think the arm wrestling one kind of interested me.
Yeah.
And other than that, though, just by reading those off, those descriptions they're accurate.
Right.
But they don't sound all that interesting, to be honest with you.
Now, unfortunately, missing from this episode, typos. I would do that a lot. People send in, kind of like Lennon would do later.
Headlines, yeah.
Yeah, send in funny things and funny signs. The one I remember from being a kid was, eat here, get gas.
Yeah. But you know what else about that is it seems like in some of the early ones, they would do some of those, but they would just read them. They wouldn't like have visual evidence, so they'd be like people describing things that they saw, and then the host like reading it aloud. So I guess they wised up eventually, but yeah.
So those are the segment, and we kind of again, to me, it's like slightly odd that not that they have these segments, but the studio audience part of it is slightly odd. Like PM Magazine, that didn't have that. That was just like a news magazine kind of show. But there'd
be a studio,
but no
studio
audience, and then they're showing them footage.
Right. They're coming
to watch
TV.
Right, and that they're entertaining in their pitches and stuff, but it's just like what is that? It's not a talk show. It's not a variety show.
Yeah.
But it's kind of both of those. But it's also not a news magazine. But it's also kind of a news magazine.
It's all that and more.
And America's Funniest Home Videos. That's another example.
Yeah.
That's still is that still around? It is.
I don't know.
But it's the same style.
Yeah, but show. That's a good comparison. It's that weird dynamic of having like an audience watching clips, presumably.
Right.
I don't even know if they are watching the clips now, but probably at the time they were making Real People, they probably actually did bother to show them.
I think so, and I think I read when it first started, like the first few episodes actually aired live.
Oh, well, that might explain some of the awkwardness and why they... that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a strange kind of element. I don't know. Like, I don't know that I would get excited to... Let's go watch that, you're on vacation in L.A. and you want to see a TV show get made, and then that's what you end up with.
Go see Real People.
Yeah.
A taping of Real People. Where, it seems like that's incredible. They would actually bring people into the studio to do things, right?
I think they had both parts, but they did. They would have it like animals.
So you might actually see, something actually performed for you there. Whereas this, you're seeing the hosts and banter,
right?
But you're not seeing like.
And every once in a while, the subject might be in the audience.
Yeah. Right, to get a bow.
Yeah.
As happens in one of these segments.
Yeah. Anyway, so arm wrestling, we do want to talk about that, I think.
Yeah, that's the Byron Allen segment. He went to like the Tropicana in Las Vegas for an arm wrestling championship tournament, and was hanging out with the big guys.
Yeah, they are big guys.
They are, and it was kind of what you'd expect. Kind of like appropriate, like you just awe and wondered how big the guys are, and actually some explanation of arm wrestling technique and strategy and how size doesn't necessarily matter.
It's about tendons.
Yeah.
That is what that guy was saying, right?
Tendons, that was his big thing. Tendons.
Right,
tendon.
Right. And
tendon this and tendon that.
And some people have the right tendons.
Yeah. Some people just don't have those.
That's what he's saying, but then a 400-pound or more guy wins.
Right, and you can't imagine anybody beating that guy.
Except for maybe Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, Yeah. Maybe this segment may have inspired Over the Top.
It might have.
Sylvester Stallone watching at home and just I like the idea of him watching Real People and like jotting down things like in a yellow legal
Hopefully
pad.
with Frank.
Yeah.
Like, Frank came over. And it's done for Real People.
Yeah. Maybe like Frank, Frank was the one that talked him into doing the arm wrestling thing.
Yeah.
Slide to hold it. Frank had to hold out for a long time.
Yeah, and then Byron does, he does some physical comedy.
He does. He gets it in the arena and
he does
goes
like
up
a
against
weird is that like a wrestling walk? Like what is that walk? He's like doing this walk when he's
kind of a little
strut.
Yeah.
They're like very stiff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he arm wrestles this giant guy.
Right.
Cleve, I think was his name. And they they cut to shots of him like with his legs in the air and
it's pretty amusing.
It is.
It's what you'd expect. And he's kind of like mock bragging about how he's going to wipe up the floor with the guy and everything, and he's kind of doing some talk, and he's kind of like running his mouth, and the guy just get started, The Cleve kind of yells at him and kind of jolts him, and that was pretty funny.
Yeah, interesting because other than probably seeing this segment when I was a kid, never really paid attention to arm wrestling in the real world. There seems to be a point where they just win.
Yeah, you don't.
There's no slamming of people's arms.
Yeah, it's not like over the top, but there's a montage of guys slapping the.
Right. So that's not as exciting as it could be, but
no.
But it was a fun little segment.
Yeah, the guy indulged Byron Allen, but he wasn't gonna act like Byron Allen could beat him or even give him like any like do a theatrical comeback after Byron Allen has him half down. He wasn't having any of that.
Yeah.
But he was gracious after winning. But it was an entertaining enough segment.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, the stakes probably weren't as high as in Over the Top.
No, definitely not. Byron Allen's kid wasn't outside in the truck waiting for him to win the tournament so he could. Yeah. I don't know if this segment really utilized Byron Allen's celebrity interviewing skills as much as it could have, but
no, maybe he hadn't worked them up yet.
No, but he wasn't quite deferential enough yet to pull that off. He did interview some of the arm wrestlers, but it wasn't quite there.
A thing now that comes to mind about Byron Allen: when did he give up on real people?
Good question.
Just focus his energy on celebrities.
Yeah, that's right. He kind of left his roots as a man of the people and kind of went into that jet set lifestyle. Interesting. Maybe that's why he's so successful interviewing the celebrities, though, because he's still got one foot in the world of real people. He
treats them like real people.
That's why they love him so much. That's why they feel so relaxed. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
How about the not safe segment?
That was interesting.
Yeah.
It was a Bill Rafferty segment where he just really sat back and let this other guy, this gadfly,
libertarian
Doyle Loudermilk.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Head of Not Safe. Is that the name of the?
Yeah, there was some kind of acronym.
Right.
Basically, his deal is the whole country is being overregulated.
Yeah.
Government is treating everybody like a moron, like a baby.
Right.
And so he is lampooning. His mission is to lampoon regulations by issuing all these proclamations that stuff should be banned or whatever.
So he's sort of like a bizarro Ralph Nader.
Yeah. And at first I kind of wondered about him, and then I realized, well, I guess it's like a gag, but his message is totally to mock government regulation.
Right.
But he wants to put like ban bananas because people can slip on the peels and stuff.
Well, you just need a warning on
Put a warning label on the banana. Yeah.
Put seatbelts and airbags on bicycles.
Yeah, which is funny. They're showing people driving around with bicycles without helmets on.
Right.
And they're kind of laughing about the idea of needing regulations, but it's like, wow, today it would raise eyebrows that person's not wearing a helmet.
Right. And because of the amount of accidents that happen on stairs, he wants to eliminate stairs.
Yeah, that's right.
And some things like that.
And they get some reaction from real people on some of these proposals.
Yeah.
And people are amused by it.
Right.
And
one guy said they should only get rid of the down.
Yeah, that was actually pretty
stairs.
good.
Yeah.
So they just get... People always get injured in the down ones. They just get rid of it. Right. That was good. But I don't know. Segment was what it was. But Doyle or Dale or whoever, he was actually in the studio, I think. And
that's right, with his weird hat.
They introduced him.
Yeah.
Bill Rafferty introduced my pal.
That was a little awkward too, because I thought more was going to happen there. And then they just cut to the next.
Yeah, just here he is.
Throw.
There would have been a chance to do some kind of element of entertainment for the in studio audience, but they didn't.
Yeah. The next one that was big. I don't know how real people it was, but it was a fun bit, I guess. In a previous episode, they had offered people to write in to get a bumper sticker.
Yeah, to send it like a self-addressed stamped envelope.
They said if they sent a big enough one, they'd send them Skip.
Yeah.
So some people actually took them up on that.
Yeah.
And they had some giant paper envelopes and then a giant sack.
Yeah.
And they FedExed Skip to someone in Northern California.
Who was overjoyed when he actually showed up.
She was.
Yeah, she was thrilled.
Yeah, the ladies seemed to like Skip.
Yeah, she was.
Based on that. And he went through the whole. I assume when he was actually on the airplane, he wasn't in the. I'm sure was against the law, but to have him in the storage container. But they did treat it as if he took the entire journey that a package would take.
Yes.
Through Federal Express, excuse me, it wasn't FedEx then.
Yeah.
Officially.
Yeah, they called. Yeah, they actually just called it Federal Express.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he all the while he's making. This is just a joke, right?
Right.
Yeah, this isn't really going to happen. And
it's on conveyor belts.
Yeah.
Gets stuffed in a container.
Yeah. Gets
delivered by truck.
It's tossed around the back of a truck, lost, misplaced. They were going to be really realistic on this show.
Right.
They would have had him go to the wrong address a couple times.
Damaged.
But that was interesting.
Yeah.
It went on for a bit. It was.
It's a long process.
Yeah, it is not as much as real time.
Right.
It wasn't in real time. Thank
No.
God. Yeah.
But he made it there in one piece anyway.
He did, and the recipient
he had some
was
bruises.
happy.
He did say he had some bruises because behind closed doors she was checking out his bruises.
Oh, yeah. Skip.
Yeah.
This is Skip's favorite episode of Real People for reasons we won't get into.
Yeah. And then Peter Billingsley gets his big filmed segment about guppies. Yeah.
Now, is this the one? Yeah, I believe it is. This is the one where it's Bill, Peter, and Skip.
They're like sitting
Together, but while they set up the segment.
I think it's
right.
Skip or is it Byron? It's one of them.
Well, yeah. I know it's Bill because Bill is poking Peter Billingsley throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed that because
he's like poking him and ribbing him and tickling him.
Yeah, he's trying to get him to break.
And then like when Peter Billingsley throws it to the segment, he just goes, "Oh, you did so good," you know, and like kind of gives him a playful punch in the shoulder. It's like, I guess it's genuine, but it comes off like a little condescending, like the whole segment, or patronizing, really, like. Oh, he's a kid, and look at him. He's good. And instead of treating him like a colleague, they're treating him like a novelty. At least in this segment, they are. Okay. So that's kind of what stood out to me. I thought it was a little weird.
I thought it was just like,
you thought he was trying to.
I think being an uncle or something.
Well, it's probably the intent, but it came off
and maybe like
weird.
Relax him by goofing around.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That itself is kind of like, does he really need? I mean, we talked about how awkward he looks in this. Yeah, maybe he did. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so guppies are fish, but I like when they get into the filmed part, like, everyone loves pets, but a new pet is taking over America. Fish.
Yeah. And
he's like peering through a fish tank.
Right.
And then we get a little thing about this Sacramento Guppy
Breeders Association.
Yeah, they're having a meeting and talking about things like tail rot and.
Yeah. Now, this is an interesting. Maybe we can talk about something here briefly. What do you think the tone of the show is towards like some of these real people? Like this segment, they're sort of right on the edge of poking fun of them, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
They're definitely like the way it's put together, kind of like mocking them just a little bit.
Yeah, I thought so. Especially some of the audio they chose to use.
Yeah,
like about the tail rot and stuff.
Right, and some of the edit, like the facial expression. So
yeah,
maybe this is the ultimate the beginning of reality television.
That is really not celebrating real people.
Yeah.
But it's making you think it's celebrating real people.
I mean, I guess the idea, like, overall is for people to say, huh, how about that, and just kind of chuckle at it, was outright mocking them. But
almost segment, like people are funny.
Yeah, this segment seemed a little bit kind of over the line a little bit.
Yeah. Interesting. I had some guppies.
You did?
Yeah.
Were they, like, just like one of the family, like that one
no,
breeding couple says?
No, but it was a little sad. We went on vacation, and when we got back, this other fish had eaten all the other fish.
Whoa!
So the guppies were gone.
That is kind of sad now.
No. But I wonder now if I got these guppies because of
real people.
Yeah, maybe I'd seen the guppies on there.
Could be.
I don't know. Like the fish tank itself was like a last-minute Christmas present.
Wow.
I remember that. And
boy, that's.
I had it for a couple of years.
That's rough. Now, here's what I wonder. Yeah. The fish that ate all the other guppies.
Yeah.
While you were gone, did the fish that ate them, did he scramble around going to pet shops frantically trying to find guppies that looked exactly like the other ones so that you wouldn't notice when you got back?
Or I wish the people taking care of my fish had.
Nah,
I think that was actually the end of the fish tank.
Ugh. Man, that's terrible.
And I'd already been through a number of them dying and stuff. And, having to do the toilet.
But just ended in one terrible aquatic orgy of violence.
Yeah.
Wow.
So apparently, whatever that other fish, it shouldn't have been in the tank.
No, I don't think he. Something went wrong there. Wow.
Yeah. Mozart and New Guinea. I don't think there's much to talk about. That's a piece where they just did voiceover.
Yeah, and so they got a guy playing classical music in this remote outpost to the natives, and that was kind of like looking at it today, it's like. The whole thing has a whiff of like, oh, aren't we special for giving culture to the natives and enlightening them, and just right down to the fact. Now the guy that's doing it, he seems like he really means well, but there's a thing at the end where he's got his arm around a guy, he's giving him a shirt or something like that, and the guy just sitting there probably like, I don't care about this music. He might not be, but it seems a little stiff, the whole thing. And then they come back to the studio. and basically they introduce this guy,
Yeah.
and like the audience goes nuts for him, and it's like, oh, what a great man this is to give up years of his life or months of his life to go play classical music down there and enlighten those savages. Whoa, and everybody's I might be reading a little too much into it. But
well, I think my impression of what he was trying to do was just talk about music being universal, and that he could go play this music that they never heard, and they would enjoy it. But he was also recording their music.
True.
And he talked about. I thought that was interesting. He talked about the idea that for them, music hadn't evolved or devolved into being entertainment. It was religious and part of how they told stories and in the fabric of their lives. On the other hand, he was being sponsored by a mining company that was probably destroying their habitat.
You're right.
So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
how to take that. But
6 months later, they go back, and the whole village is gone, and somebody's hosting. The guy in the shirt is hosting Papua Guinea Top 40.
Right.
And the mining company owns everything.
Like the mining company was using him to distract them.
Yeah, he's right. He's like their stalking horse or something.
Yeah.
Well, I may have interpreted that a little wrong, but it seemed a little over the top. The kind of the reaction, and again, it's kind of that awkwardness of like introducing him in the studio and just not even following up because nowadays when you bring him in for that, say she would ask him a follow-up question or something like, how, and he'd have some anecdote or something else that he would share at that moment, but instead it's just like, here he is, and give him a big ovation, and that's it.
Yeah. Maybe he would have played some more music.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah. Now, Texas Ranch, that's not really a good title for that. Yeah, that whole thing was weird.
This is the rodeo, right?
It was the rodeo, which they kept selling as a rodeo unlike one you've never seen before. And I still haven't figured out what was...
It looked pretty much like every other rodeo I've seen before.
I guess because it was authentic working cowboys.
Right. I think that's the gimmick. So the rodeo itself wasn't, but it was the fact that they had actual working cowboys.
And girls.
As the participants.
Yeah. And Sarah Purcell actually went to this and was walking around in a cowboy hat and stuff.
Right. So she probably had a good time doing it, but...
Yeah. It was nothing.
I don't mean anything by that.
No, I know you don't.
Yeah.
There wasn't.
It was an uninspired segment, in my opinion.
Yeah, ice car riding. They gave us the impression Bill was there, but I don't think he went.
Yeah, they definitely made it sound, but I don't remember any on-camera shots of him. Yeah, I don't think he was. He ain't going to Minnesota. No. He might be a roving reporter, but he's a warm reporter. He's warm blood. He ain't going there.
Yeah. So that was about people in a Minnesota town or group of towns where, it's the dead of winter and the lake's frozen, and I guess to practice their ice driving, or that's how it started. Yeah. Teenagers, but it's like a race/demolition derby on the ice.
Yeah, it seems like as that event evolved, it quickly lost any redeeming educational value and just turned into like, hey, let's go wreck some cars on the ice.
Right.
Which is fine, but...
and there's no mention of lutefisk.
No.
Or Lutherans.
No.
Anything. So I don't know that they did this on Lake Wobegon. But,
right.
We raced the ice cars. And the last one was actually a very heartwarming story about pets. People using pets, and this is still a thing you see human interest stories on, to taking pets or animals to visit people like in nursing homes.
Yeah, it's kind of a timeless.
Yeah, Skip goes on that because of Hobo.
Hobo the Wonder Dog,
who he adopted after his story. They tell us.
Yeah. I mean, again, this segment's pretty much what you'd expect.
Yeah.
They probably had I haven't seen enough of this, but I'll bet they had a mandate to like end every show on like one of these like universal feel good stories to give everybody like smiling at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
It's probably Billingsley that said that. Billingsley. We joke about him. He was probably like the behind-the-scenes guy. Forget this John Barber.
Hey, Peter Billingsley got his GED at 14.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Very smart guy. Yeah, and he got a real education being on stage with Bill Rafferty and Byron Allen, though. Forget the GED. He learned about life from those two.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the end, and it's hard to say anything bad about that segment.
No. Do you think Byron Allen has taken advantage of his relationship with Peter Billingsley to get interviews with Like Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau!
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn!
I'd hate to use that terminology, but I wouldn't be surprised if Byron Allen called in a few, favors or, mentioned their past association. Hey, he'll do whatever it takes. He's when you're an entertainment mogul,
yeah,
you do whatever.
Right.
Now, of course, he doesn't have to do that. Really,
he does favors too.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, one could argue being on one of his shows is a favor to them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just think of the visibility when you're across, 50-some digital channels or whatever.
Right.
It is. The platform that man has.
And syndication, late night Saturday syndication on local channels.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Well, what was your favorite segment on this, if you had to pick one? I guess I kind of liked. Well, let's say you don't have to pick one.
Yeah. Boy, I'm looking at it now, and
It's a little less than the sum of its parts. It
is,
like.
Yeah. Maybe the arm wrestling.
I think the arm wrestling is the one that stands in my mind the most.
I mean, I like the FedEx one that amused me, but it was also very staged.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, the Guppies one was a little borderline condescending.
Yeah. The arm wrestling, we joke about Byron Allen, but that had more of his personality than a lot of the other segments had of the other host's personality.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one that it seemed like they put some effort into it that was unique for this show.
Right.
As opposed to, I'm assuming all these segments were produced for the show.
Yeah.
But some of them...
Boy, that could be a thing. I never thought about that.
They could be recycling stuff from B-roll footage from, Texas rodeos and just repackaging it.
Yeah.
I guess not that one because Sarah Purcell went out there, but
yeah,
that Minnesota one, that's a little questionable.
That could have been done for local TV.
Yeah.
Like the local NBC affiliate.
It very much could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad idea, actually.
No.
Because back then, nobody would know.
Right.
You wouldn't have to advertise it. You get, cheap footage.
Yeah.
That would definitely be a way to save money. I'll bet they did do some of that.
Right. I mean, network news does that sometimes.
Yeah.
I said that as if real people were some kind of news.
Yeah. And now back to the real people desk for breaking news.
Yeah.
Skip Stephenson reporting on, hostage negotiations or something like that. Well, it's a pretty tough deal. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll just keep it right here. We'll let you know. Skip Stephenson died
he did.
Tragically young, too.
Yeah,
I mean, would he, a heart attack at,
50s, I think.
Yeah, man. But I guess everybody else is still...
No, Bill...
Oh, Bill Rafferty died a few years ago. That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think but John Barber's still alive.
Yeah, he is. He apparently has some kind of weekly radio show. Good for him.
Yeah.
Maybe we should ask John Barber some of these questions we have about real people. I might actually do that.
Yeah, if you can find his...
He's got a website. I was looking at it. I won't embarrass him by calling him on the air or anything, but I'd like to call him and ask him, hey.
Yeah.
He'd be like, that stuff's on Wikipedia. Why would you ask me about it?
But surprisingly, not much on the internet about real people at all.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, that's why it's such a surprise, because as popular as the show was and as influential as you could argue that it is, it's not the kind of show that you would hold up, you would put in reruns.
No, although apparently it was for a little while, right?
While it was on, yeah. It was kind of like one of those contemporary, but it's not the kind of thing like now you'd put on TV Land or...
No.
I would watch it probably, or just watch it. I'd get a kick out of it, but...
Because in a way, some of the stuff they're doing is out of date.
Yeah.
I mean, the pet visitation thing was probably they certainly gave the impression that it was a new kind of concept then.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not now.
Yeah, well, it's these kind of segments, who's going to watch... the argument would be, who's going to watch people doing this stuff 30 years ago when you could go out and get footage of people doing this stuff now?
Right.
Because people won't watch... that's old.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, this show really kind of fell off the radar, I think.
Yeah, but if you want to know what life was like in America...
Yeah, what it was really like in America.
Like. Yeah, I mean, something like Chips gives you an idea, but this is about real people.
Yeah.
And you get to see them in their real environments and their real fashions. You get to see what it's like for a real person to throat a commercial.
Yeah, that's an experience we've all wondered about, I know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your favorite in-studio part?
My favorite in-studio part was Bill Rafferty, interacting with Peter Billingsley because I thought that was bizarre. Yeah, that's what.
That was mine because I didn't think it was because it seemed more natural, but
I put a whole new spin on it then. Right. Nothing else really stood out so much. I mean, the part at the beginning, like where they're taking turns reading lines from a letter, that was kind of weird, but
so weird.
It seems like in some of the earlier episodes I've seen, they did more where all of them were on stage at once. I guess they did have a bit where when they were introducing the Federal Express segment. There were several of them kind of holding up.
They were all there.
The different envelopes and stuff.
It was a little weird too, because Rafferty,
I think it's Rafferty. Yes.
Rafferty. Anyway, like he had introduced the libertarian guy from a separate part of the stage, so he pops up in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But I think everyone else is there.
Okay.
And they're like trading lines, and it's just so weird when they do that. I mean, we both also watched the very first episode, and there's like a super strange thing where they tell this really long-winded story.
Yeah, that goes nowhere.
And this is bouncing back and forth between everyone.
And even Fred Willard's involved, and even then, it's like, oh, this just isn't working. Yeah. So apparently, the entire run of Real People is available on Amazon Prime. Go figure.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'll be watching a whole lot more of it, but if they put up like That's Incredible, I'd sure kind of cherry pick and look through some of the episodes of that.
Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I think it's great that this kind of stuff, rather than just sit around on the shelf, put it up for streaming. Why not? Let people see it.
Right. And who knows? I mean, if you watch this, or you might, I don't know, just stumble on some weird thing about Real People that you like, or see some relative or something. I don't know.
True. Maybe some future stars.
Future stars, yeah. I hope there's not a lot of that, because,
Yeah, that would seem a little...
I get that's fun with game shows. You kind of understand, like, the struggling actors who go on game shows.
Right. Oh, that's a good point, yeah.
Or, like, whatever, when people from the real world became actual actors. Because that's what they were pursuing anyway. So.
Right.
But I think if someone became that kind of famous... Now, there's this guy... I'm going to look more into this because I remember being interested in it, like, or whatever, as a kid, but who appeared on the show multiple times, Captain Sticky.
Captain Sticky.
Who was sort of a real life superhero, but not the, not like the kind that go actually and fight crime so much, I don't think. But he lived in San Diego and apparently was, showed up at Comic-Con all the time.
Huh.
Back before it was what it is now.
Yeah.
I actually read Mark Evanier wrote an obituary for him in 2005.
Captain Sticky.
Anyway, he was like a 300-pound guy.
Huh.
And he had a costume and a sticky mobile. And one of these episodes features Byron Allen going to his wedding.
Whoa.
So...
well, I may check that out.
Yeah. But he became a minor celebrity because of the show.
Right. But that was like an organic thing that developed from...
Yeah, and he presumably in San Diego, he already was kind of a weird...
Gotcha.
He would show up.
Well, that's Real People. I don't know if I have a whole lot more else out of this episode. It was interesting, and it's a nice, interesting snapshot of what was considered, early reality television back in the early 1980s.
Yeah.
Does it hold up today? Yeah. It's of its time, but I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
On this podcast, we like that in a certain way. So
that's right.
Did we keep it real?
We kept it real.
That's all we can say. This episode brought to you by Real People. We assure you Mike and Rick are real and people. This episode also brought to you by FedEx, shipping comedians since 1983. This episode also brought to you by the Sacramento Guppy Breeders Association. Our slogan, be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Ovaltine? A crummy commercial? Son of a... Join us next time for another exciting episode of Battle of the Network Shows. Learn more, leave feedback, and suggest future episodes at battleofthenetworkshows.com. Follow us on Twitter at BatNetShows and like our Facebook page, facebook.com/battleofthenetworkshows.
And we gotta be gone.
But we leave you with good cheer.
Because we'll be back for another crack.
Next Wednesday. See you here.
Good night, everybody.